Yay.
Clearly, I'm not the next speaker. We have a special award that we want to present right quick for Mr. Bill Rogers, who's done so much for Operation Open Our Communities. Okay, so Bill and John, come on up. Come on up. Thank you for your patience.
I love surprises.
Okay, we have a special surprise. Bill, can you come back out here? Bill doesn't like surprises. Bill doesn't like attention. I'm messing with all of that. I didn't get here by myself. I got here with the support of a lot of friends who took my phone calls, who wrote checks, who made commitments, who took risks. When somebody is there for you, when somebody backs you, you need to back them back. You need to be there for them. And I wanted to stop the program. Bill's got to go back and run one of the biggest companies in the world. He would never, ever, ever put the attention on him. I want you to join me in saying some community love to a Founder Circle member, Truist, in recognition of your inaugural Founder Circle commitment, enabling Operation Hope to expand and scale our work, growing an inclusive economy that works for everyone. Bill Rogers is a living testimony for a case for optimism. Please join me in saying thank you to Bill Rogers.
All right. I'm back. And we're going to act like that was just part of the program. Yay! No, it's wonderful that we were able to give out that award. So deserving. Another round of applause for that. So great. So I once again get to introduce two incredible people who care about inspiring people to improve the world. So please join me in welcoming the managing partner of Edward Jones, Penny Pennington, and our good friend, the anchor of CNBC's Worldwide Exchange, Frank Holland.
Thank you, Donna. Good morning.
Good morning, everybody. How's it going? Tough act to follow. There were awards and hugs. A lot of stuff going on that one. We're going to try to make it just as exciting. So I am Frank Holland from CNBC. This is Penny Pennington, the managing partner of Edward Jones. We're here to talk about something that's really core to this event, economic inclusion, but not just inclusion, how to take action, how to really change your financial life. We can't help you with the rest of it, but the economic part, we're going to help you with right now. So Penny, it's such a pleasure to be here with you right now.
Great to be with you, Frank, and this group.
So let's just start a little bit broadly. How does Edward Jones, a financial services company, 8 million clients, I believe, all around the world, how do you look at economic inclusion?
Yeah. Well, let me start with just a little bit of context about what we do. So what we do is to give advice to people to turn their life plan into a financial plan so that multi-generationally we help them establish, grow, pass on, and give away their wealth. And as an aside, I will say that many in the wealth management industry who give face-to-face advice from a human being, not from a robot, there are fewer in our industry who are interested in helping people establish wealth. But we've been in this business for 101 years. And an insight from one of our founders decades ago was that people have resources and they have desire to have more opportunity and possibility in their lives, but they need advice. There's sometimes a lack of confidence about being able to do that. And so what we do is to help people have more confidence in their financial futures. So financial inclusion, including more people, 8 million that we serve today, our addressable market is 40 million. And by the way, Frank, I make no apologies for being a commercial, successful enterprise. This is not philanthropy. Inclusion, financial inclusion has been our legacy, and it is our future. And it makes for a more successful and vibrant commercial enterprise. So that's what we're up to. That's what we've actually been up to for decades.
You know, I think you mentioned, well, actually, big round of applause. One of the important things you said when we're talking about financial inclusion is grow your wealth and also pass it along. I think a lot of people here, we've all known people that talked about what they had before and they don't seem to have it now. They weren't able to hold on to their wealth, or they weren't able to maximize their success long term. Let's talk about that when it comes to economic inclusion, actually being able to pass it along to the next generation.
Well, you have to have some to pass it along. Right. And this is one of the gaps that is very real in our country, all over our country. The ability for people to really establish wealth, to get good advice, to understand how to balance different goals that they might have and different constraints that they might have in their lives, and put that all together in a way that they can build a long-term plan for themselves and their family, and then have a way to pass that on intergenerationally. One of the programs that we are testing today in St. Louis and here in Atlanta is pulling together, and Operation Hope is so great at this, pulling together partners, because we know that we cannot do this alone. Pulling together NGOs, for-profit fintechs, socially responsible for-profit fintechs, universities, academics, data sources, to come together and surround a family, an individual investor who may be new in this process. Surround them with not just financial literacy, not just the knowing part of it, but, and Frank, you said it just a moment ago, the ability to take that knowledge into action. But sometimes there are a lot of other supports that need to be there. There needs to be debt mitigation. There needs to be the opportunity to borrow in really healthy ways. There needs to be ongoing advice and education to families. So we do this across generations, and frankly, we do this across economic strata, from some of the wealthiest people in North America to folks who are just getting started. But the tenets are the same. And Frank, you were going here, the tenets are very much the same. Grow your confidence, get clear about what your goals are, have a long-term orientation, recognize that there are going to be trade-offs to that. Don't get carried away with the market, right? With the ups and downs and vicissitudes of the market, and get advice that you can be confident in. So this is how we seek to surround people of all kinds of different economic means and shepherd them across that spectrum of establishing, growing, passing on, and giving away. And by giving away, I mean investing back into the communities where we live and work.
Wow. One more round of applause. So Penny, I don't know too much about your background, but I grew up going to church. We went to church every Sunday, and then we had a special prayer session every time the Bills came in. But you were just preaching right then. You have to have some to pass it along. This couldn't be truer. So let's really talk about what you're doing with Operation Hope and Financial Literacy for All, the financial fitness program that you're instituting. Let's talk about how you're not only being inclusive, but you're really putting it into action.
Yeah. Well, I can't let what you just said go past about spending some time in church. So I did too. And anybody been to one of those tent revival meetings? Got an amen there, right? I love those.
You're preaching.
So the tent revival meetings that I used to go to, sometimes the tents were big and sometimes the tents were smaller. What you learn going to a church revival meeting or to the circus is that the bigger the tent, the taller the center pole, right? You have a big tent when you've got a tall center pole. At Edward Jones, in the world that I live in every day, in the world that I'll say it, preach every day, that center pole is opportunity. And the taller that pole about opportunity is inside of our company for the 52,000 colleagues that I work alongside, the 8 million clients that we serve, an addressable market of 40 million clients, and the fact that we have a brick and mortar location in 2/3 of the counties of the United States, all 10 provinces in Canada, and we have a client in every county but one in the United States. There's one county in Texas that has more cows than people, and we don't have a client there. But the reason that I share that is that we are everywhere. And so we know where opportunity lies, and we know where the barriers to that opportunity lies. And we believe that it is part of our responsibility, but also part of what will make us more commercially successful to address that, to raise that center pole of opportunity. And Frank, I bet you've heard this. I've heard that talent is spread more equally sometimes than opportunity. So our job is to make that tent as big as possible. Now I'll get to your real question, which is how do we integrate with Operation Hope, and what is our financial literacy endeavor? We started this journey, this particular journey around financial literacy in 2020, and we set a goal by 2025 to have served 1 million learners. We're at the end of 2023.
Penny, 1 million? I mean, that's a round of
learners,
applause right there.
Okay, thank
1
you.
million people.
So we should have set the goal higher because we're at about 815,000 now, and we've got 2 years of that goal to go. The way that we do it, we work with a curriculum from EverFi, and we take this curriculum into schools and into our digital assets, into online assets. We've got about 600,000 people engaged with our online assets and almost 200,000 students across North America. You probably know that there are dozens of states that require a financial literacy curriculum in their high schools. And so this curriculum satisfies that. But I was talking to Brian earlier, the funding for that is an issue, right? That government has mandated this occurs in the high schools, but sometimes the funding is an issue. So this is something that Operation Hope is really focused on. What we know about these programs, and it's really important, I think, that we measure the outcomes. What we know about these programs is that confidence goes up when someone has got this level of literacy. There are 44 modules, so this is not inconsequential, but we can test folks' confidence and their feeling about their relationship with money and their relationship with perhaps becoming an investor, which is really what this is all about, to take in your own hands the agency of your own life for creating a future of your making. So that's what our financial literacy program is all about.
Excellent, excellent. I think we've drifted into church a little bit. I'm going to tell you something my mom always told me. God helps those that help themselves. Yeah. And it's about taking that first step. I want to talk to you about your purpose. You are the managing partner of Edward Jones, similar to a CEO. You have a partnership structure with this organization. I want to talk to you about your dedication to financial literacy, to economic inclusion, your purpose. Why is it so important for you to have this purpose?
Yeah. Well, I'll start with the enterprise's purpose, and then maybe get around to my own because it's so simpatico. Edward Jones' why, our reason for being, is to partner with lots of people to make a positive impact on the world, to improve the lives of our clients first and our colleagues, and together, remember how ubiquitous we are, together improve our communities and yes, even society. We put that level of ambition on what we do because we are successful enough to now be important, in more people's lives. So this is our stated purpose statement. And in that purpose statement, you hear we want to affect lots of stakeholders, our clients, our colleagues, the communities that we serve, our society. I believe that economic inclusion and more agency and opportunity for more people strengthens democracy. So well-being, financial well-being and democracy go hand in hand. Growing the middle class and people who aspire to the middle class in North America has been part of our legacy, and it is our future. So our purpose is to make a difference in the world, said as simply as that. I talked to one of our financial advisors recently. He said, he's sort of scratching his head as it. He has a practice in a town in Iowa. He's doing an incredible job there. And he said, Penny, it just sounds like we're trying to change the world. Correct. And what every member of our team, 52,000 people, realize is that they join their purpose and passion to our enterprise, and they can amplify and magnify who they are and what they want to accomplish in the world by being a part of Edward Jones. And I want people to feel that way. In fact, I want people to test Edward Jones and our purpose to make sure they can achieve theirs through our organization. Our purpose is the wellspring for all of our strategy. We have set outcomes associated with our clients, our colleagues, our communities, society, and our firm. And there are 3 lanes that we operate in: partnering for greater financial strength, promoting healthier futures. And you might say, wait a minute, why do we care if people are healthier? That's physical well-being, not financial well-being. Do you agree those 2 things go together? If your health is ruined, your finances are as well. Your economic power, your power to go to work every day, others need to take care of you, and so their economic well-being is impacted. This is why promoting healthier futures, especially as it relates to Alzheimer's and an equitable environment, is important to us. And then the 3rd lane is advancing inclusive growth. We have measures associated with every single one of those things. So as I said earlier, our purpose is not philanthropy. Our purpose is about our endurance as a commercially successful enterprise.
So you mentioned the connection between, I get a round of applause. Thank you, person in the back. You mentioned the connection between Edward Jones, the enterprise, and your personal commitment to these principles. Explain.
Well, John did this just a minute ago with Bill, and I got the idea that maybe that wasn't rehearsed. It was, Bill, why are you so invested in this? Why is it so important to you? I come from a pretty modest background, but one that doesn't look modest today. I come from a line of folks that came out of North Alabama. My mother, the home she grew up in, did not have indoor plumbing the first few years of her life, and my dad grew up on a farm. And I remember they moved to Nashville, and I was born there. And I remember sitting in our family room in a new home that my parents had just built, and I had my own room for the first time. And I shared a bathroom with my sister, not the whole family. And I remember sitting there one night and saying to my parents, I think I'll probably be the first, and I was 14 years old, I'll probably be the first generation of our family that doesn't do better than their parents or the generation before them. And I said this to my mother and my father, both of whom were growing in their careers and becoming really, really thriving leaders. And I just remember both of them looking at me and saying, that's not the way this works. That's not the way this works in our family. And this is not the way it works in this country. We're going to give you some advantages. We're going to give you some tools. We don't have all of them, but it's your job to make things better. And then I just saw them go about doing that in their lives, in their church, in junior achievement, in their own companies. I saw leadership being lived out loud, making a difference. I saw the joy in that. I saw the growth in that. And so when I found a place, and I had another career before coming to Edward Jones, but when I found a place that this was fundamental to the place that I was working, I realized that I could grow my own impact. When I came to Edward Jones, I had no idea that where I sit now would be an opportunity. But I also see, and from a real place of humility, I hope you hear this in my preaching. I don't mean this is preaching to the choir, as we used to say in church. I mean to say that using this platform to make a bigger impact in the world is really important to me and really important to the commercial success. I keep saying that, to the commercial success and our license to operate that is given by consumers and investors and colleagues and regulators and all the stakeholders that we seek to partner with to make the world a better place. That's my purpose.
You know, what you said to your parents when you were 14, it's just that statement, the thought that you thought you weren't going to do as well as they were. I think every parent's hope, raise your hand if you're a parent. Any parents here? I would assume a lot. Your hope is your children are going to do better. They're going to grow and they're going to see things that you weren't able to see, go places you weren't going to be able to go, achieve things that you only dreamed of. Are you worried today that without more economic inclusion, financial wellness, that we may actually see a generation that can't do as well as its parents?
Yeah. Are y'all worried about that? I think every generation in our country has been worried about that. I think the headwinds and the tailwinds over time have ebbed and flowed, but we've got some flow on some headwinds right now. Let's just describe some of those headwinds. Well, in the field that I operate in, some of those headwinds are that becoming an investor and remaining an investor in a time of so much volatility in the marketplace and so much information and misinformation in the marketplace makes it pretty challenging. Makes it challenging for people to have confidence to go seek advice. I was a financial advisor with Edward Jones. That's how I got my start. And it was uncanny to me how many people, even those with great means, didn't know if they deserved financial advice.
Wow.
And so the way that the competitive set in the wealth management business is bifurcating today is you can get face-to-face financial advice if you've got a certain amount of money. If you don't have a certain amount of money, then you go to a machine. And Edward Jones' approach is to really double down on the human touch, the financial advice that combines what we call artificial intelligence, what the machine can provide, with advisor intelligence, what the human being can provide. And we want more and more people to recognize that they deserve that. And so by opening up lanes associated with financial literacy, by being in all of our communities, by opening the opportunity to become a financial advisor, to become part of the wealth management industry and help people recognize the goodness that's in that. So by breaking down some of those barriers, that is where Edward Jones seeks to operate in the wealth management business in order to enable our financial advisors to serve 5 generations of investors at one time. That's what we'll be faced with over the coming decade, to be able to serve 5 generations of investors at one time. A 108-year-old, and I write these letters all the time to folks who are does anybody remember who Willard Scott was?
Of course, yeah.
Remember Willard Scott would shout out the 100-year-olds on his show? Well, I get to do that now. It's in a letter format, but it's such a treasure to send these letters to 100-year-old investors. And then to the youngest investors, people who are just starting their journey. We just did some research on what we call next gen, investors 18 to 34. Now, I'm going to bust some myths here. Those investors, think about them. 4 years ago, they were 14 to 30. 14 years old to 30 years old as the pandemic was beginning. Think about how they have been impacted as newly minted young adults. And what we know is that your relationship with money is developed from your family and your early beginnings. And it's also developed in searing moments in economically challenging times, and it never leaves you. Those moments never leave you. So those 18 to 34-year-olds today, 20% of them have already lost a job. 66% of them, 2/3, say they want advice. They want financial advice from a human being. Only 1 in 5 is getting their financial advice from TikTok, which is, that's the meme right now. All these young people, they want all their advice and all their how-tos from TikTok.
Is that good or bad to get it from TikTok?
Let me say this. It's not tailored to you if you get it from TikTok. It's not about you. It's about millions and millions of people that TikTok influencer is trying to influence. And so these are the things that we're trying to understand about younger investors and intersect with their lives, be relevant to them with the tools and the products and the resources and the technology, because we know that if an investor says to us, gosh, Edward Jones gets me, they understand who I am, and they're guiding me, like they're guiding me. And I'm different in my story than everybody else, and they make it easy. You get me, you guide me, you make it easy. If we can do that for more people in North America, we know that we're making a difference in the world.
Absolutely, absolutely. I think this conversation took some turns that neither one of us was expecting. So you mentioned your days going to the revival. We are in a big tent right here. Operation Hope is one of the biggest tents. So why don't you leave us all with one last word? You can preach a little bit if you need to.
All right.
Just one last word as we look at our finances. You mentioned artificial intelligence. I'm sure a lot of people have that on their mind, not only about their futures, but their children's futures. As we look ahead when it comes to economic inclusion, guiding our own finances, and ideally leaving something for the next generation, how should we view this next upcoming year, 2024 and beyond?
Yeah. I'll come at it from, there was a statement made on stage or a conversation earlier today and a little bit last night about capitalism. I know that capitalism can do more and better for more people. And the free market system in our country, when it does more and better for more people, strengthens democracy, it reduces fear, it enables people to have more opportunities in their lives. That's what this country is all about when it's at its very best. And business, I'm a business person. I am unabashed about the fact that I believe that capitalism for good can do more good for more people. And one of the things that I love about Operation Hope and that we seek to do is to bring business partners together, to bring not-for-profits, churches, academics, universities, bring together community builders who have all of the perspectives. We can bring them to the table and understand what community by community is needed to strengthen our country. So the case for optimism, I believe, is very, very high, but it means we all got to be leaning in. And I've gotten so much good gas from being with this group, from being with you over these few hours about what that case for optimism really is. Thanks for the time. Thanks for having us. Thank you.
The case for optimism, the case for economic inclusion, a little preaching in there. Thank you for the good words. Penny Pennington, managing partner of Edward Jones, thank you so much.
Thank you. Amen, brothers and sisters. Great to be with you. Oh, love it.
Hello, this is Atlanta Mayor Andre Dickens, and I'm pleased to greet you during the 2023 Hope Global Forum's annual meeting. I'm deeply honored to serve as the co-chair for this event alongside a profound global leader like Ambassador Andrew Young and a true champion of economic inclusion, Operation Hope founder and CEO John Hope Bryant. This year's theme, Making the Case for Optimism, represents a call to action for all of us. And as we share this space, engaging in dialogues that will help shape and advance our society, I encourage you to reflect on the power of optimism. Think about the incredible impact we can make together through collective action that echoes through the halls of business, government, and communities worldwide. Let's make optimism a part of our legacy. On behalf of the people of Atlanta, thank you for your inspiring work and valued partnership.
Weren't Penny and Frank amazing? Let's hear it again for them. They did such a great job. I learned so much. I love coming to this because of that. So we're going to keep things going right now on that same theme of building on inclusive growth, right? So we're here to share some of the strategies for that. We have a wonderful panel you're going to love. First, the General Counsel of Smith Family Circle with the Obama administration, Sean White. the managing director and the head of multicultural strategic client services at UBS, Melinda Hightower, and co-founder and Urban Capital Network, UCN co-founder, Mr. Felix Chevalier. Please welcome them all.
So good morning, everyone. We've brought together to the main stage two accomplished financial and legal professionals to speak about wealth building for women and communities of color. We have Managing Director of Multicultural Strategic Clients Segments for UBS, and we also have Sean White, who is a financial professional and lawyer and strategic counsel advisor for a number of family offices. So we'll begin with just a few questions. Each of you have spent a considerable amount of time and energy focused on closing the wealth gap for women and communities of color. Can you both share why you've been so passionate about this topic and why should we be as well?
Sure, I can dive right in, and thanks so much, Felix, and I'm excited to be here. So the reason I am so excited about this, because I think it's an urgent issue based on the changing demographics of the country. A recent Cerulli report shows us that about $84 trillion in wealth is about to transfer from the baby boomer generation really to largely millennials, right? And those millennials are very different than earlier generations. Specifically of note, 44% of millennials are multicultural. So they identify as one of those diverse cultures, Black, Asian American, Hispanic or Latino, or another ethnic minority. So that for us is really a call to action that if we want to continue to remain relevant, not just in the financial industry, but really in any industry, we need to make sure that we are catering to our audience and catering to the clients that we need to serve. So that's why I'm so thrilled and excited about it.
Again, agree with everything that Mel just said. Want to give a little bit of an introduction about who I am. So I am a general counsel and serves as strategic advisor to various family offices and foundations. And in the past have represented people such as the billionaire Eli Broad, President Obama's foundation, and most recently Will and Jada Pinkett Smith. And one of the things that gives me is a vantage point over my career in New York on Wall Street and then in private practice and then working for individual family offices is a little bit of a vantage point on how people who have wealth and who have intergenerational wealth to pass along, what some of the strategies that they have are that have put them in those positions. And I'm passionate about closing the wealth gap because I think it's possible. I think that what the strategies show is that with the right planning and thoughtfulness and community and collective action, we can close the wealth gap. There are tools that are available to us, and there are roadmaps and game plans from families that have had high levels of income and wealth over the years that we can follow. We just need to communicate with one another and create more infrastructure around financial literacy, financial wellness, and preparing our children for this next stage and the demographic shift that Mel is talking about. Because if we don't do that, we know that this country, the changing face of this country, is going to become browner and more feminine when it comes to who controls the purse strings and the wealth when that wealth transfer happens to millennials. And to our detriment, if we don't prepare them to be in charge of the US economy and US GDP. And so one of the things, we all know the billionaire Warren Buffett, who says never bet against America, right? We have so much innovation and entrepreneurship and all kinds of other things, but can we really say that if we're not preparing the next generation to move those things forward and to create the businesses that create jobs? So that's why I'm really passionate. I think it's possible, but we have to be, one, passionate, and two, very proactive about closing the wealth gap.
Sean, and for you as well, Mel. So you mentioned Warren Buffett, the Obamas, Smith's family, Mel, you're at UBS, you're dealing with philanthropic dollars from wealthy individuals, but we have people in the room who may not fit into that category, including myself. What do you say to someone who may be working for Wells Fargo and as an account executive, or someone who works for Prudential, or someone who works at a car dealership? How do, when we talk about closing the racial wealth gap for women and communities of color, how do we start from a practical standpoint?
Sean and I were just talking about this backstage, that no matter your wealth level, the lessons really are the same in terms of how you're thinking about all of the assets that you bring to the table. And so I want to take a step back a bit and really talk about what I mean when I say wealth, because I think it would be a mistake to say that it's just a financial concept. It's not. Wealth is the accumulation of course, financial capital, but also your intellectual capital and the knowledge and know-how that you bring to the table, as well as social capital, relational management and relationships that you may have, connections, access, and then finally, human capital, your mental well-being and your physical well-being. So it's the culmination of all of those things, less the outlay that you had to acquire them. So when we think about intellectual capital, for example, the student loans that you had to undertake perhaps in order to attain that education. But stepping back, when I think about it, it really is the same thing across all families. We're constantly thinking about what you spend, what you save, what you invest. Ensuring that you are well planned is something that is applicable to any level of wealth.
Yeah, when I think about wealth, or the concept of wealth, if we want to just go in that direction, I think about what assets and resources you can bring to bear. So it really is, it's to Mel's point about more than just money. And when I think of assets and resources, I think of the people you know, the community you live in and how close-knit that community is, the people you know who have jobs in other industries who can explain to you how other things work. I mean, there is more to wealth than just money. But when we're talking about, for me, closing the wealth gap, we're talking about putting financial assets into the hands of women and people of color with the training that they need for financial wellness, right? So we want our businesses to get the capital that they need. We want our young people to get the capital that they need with respect to being able to go to college and have education and things along those lines. So it's not just the money that's in your pocket, but it's the resources that you can bring to bear for your household and for your family. And some of that, I mean, look, we're at a conference where we have people who are elected officials speaking and talking. And some of that is, what resources are your children's schools getting or public schools getting, right? Wealth is about being able to allocate those resources to the highest and best use within your life and within your community. So it's bigger than that when we're talking about closing the wealth gap. Even though I deal with individuals and families, I recognize that this is not something that each of us is going to close by ourselves on our own. We do need our legislative officials and those who fund our schools and our school boards to be teaching financial literacy to our children. And we need them to know how to balance their checkbook and what to do with the money when we leave it for them and we have it for them. So there's so many different areas that you can attack this from. And so even though we may not, to Felix's point, you could get to the place or have the money of Bill and Melinda Gates, there are aspects of wealth that are about the quality of living and the lives that we have and that we share within our families and within our communities that I want to think about as part of closing that wealth gap. And so there are so many places to do that. Again, for what Mel said about, thinking of the things that ultra high net worth individuals are thinking about, if that's, do you have the appropriate levels of insurance on your home? Are you fully utilizing your 401k? Are you, taking the match for your giving that your company provides? I mean, there are a lot of ways to think of bringing more resources to bear to the benefit of your family and your community.
I think that's right. And I think when you think about tactical things that you can do to close the wealth gap, I think there's an individual and a collective path forward. And I'll talk a little bit about some of the research that we've seen and is why the wealth gap continues to get bigger. In addition to a lot of the institutional barriers that exist, what we're seeing in terms of the legacy of lack of financial access, what we see is that wealth is really, when you think about pathways to wealth, there's really only a handful of ways to get there. Entrepreneurship, investing, inheritance, real estate. It's pretty much, those are pretty much the pathways to wealth. But when you think about, and research shows, our own Investor Advance report, we think about, we've tracked sort of multicultural millionaires and how they've built their wealth versus millionaires overall. What is interesting about that pathway is that the majority of millionaires overall have built their wealth largely through investments. However, multicultural millionaires are only half as likely to have done that. They take a circuitous path, largely due to lack of access. So you see real estate as a very common pathway to wealth. And that's largely due to lack of trust, well deserved in many instances. So real estate, really saving and being incredibly good savers, those are the pathways that people have taken. However, what I would say from a financial perspective is that those tend to be longer trajectories to build wealth. It's not to say you shouldn't invest in real estate. It's not to say, particularly in this economic environment, that holding on to some liquidity is a bad thing. It just means that diversification is key.
Interestingly enough, last week, Monday, our firm, Urban Capital Network, along with our nonprofit organization, the Innovation Center for Urban Entrepreneurship, hosted 50 African-American men at the White House to talk about this exact issue. The ask of the White House was to facilitate the funding of investor accelerators across the country for the very reason you mentioned. It's the lack of knowledge, and the quickest way to create wealth is through investing. It's what everyone else does, right? And so this question is for you, Mel. You may have colleagues in the room who are also with Philanthropy. How does the philanthropic community believe, or if they believe, that they should be playing a role in closing the racial wealth gap? And then how do you get those folks who have this concentration of money to evolve to get to the point where they're willing to help tackle this challenge?
Yeah, so I think that the main takeaway I want you to take from this is traditional philanthropy is not going to solve the wealth gap. It will not. And by traditional philanthropy, I mean someone writing a grant on an individual basis to an institution, and that's it. We've been trying those models for decades, and they have not moved the needle significantly. So what I would posit is that we need to have a new model, one that moves to a collective form of action, collective philanthropy, one that also moves beyond the philanthropic capital to take a look at the rest of the capital stack and looking at things like impact investing, which you can do with the other part of your balance sheet. And by impact investing, I mean investing intentionally to create positive, measurable outcomes in environmental and social causes while still achieving a financial return. So I think moving beyond the limitations of traditional philanthropy are one of the ways, and we've seen some early indicators of success that way.
Sean, so you represent a number of family offices. Can you tell us what a family is? How do you become one? And how and if a family office can be used for the purpose of closing the racial wealth gap? And if so, how would they go about doing it?
Sure. So one of the things that's interesting about the interplay between Mel and I is that we've both represented family offices. I've represented most recently single family offices, which is around the investments in the portfolio of one family. And Mel has spent time, and UBS offers services around multifamily offices. And so that's when you have an anchor principal client, if it's a standalone multifamily office, and some other families around that that are potentially at a slightly different level of wealth. And so there are a few ways to think about it. When I think about it, family offices, the joke is that if you've met one family office, you've met one family office, because they're customized for what families need. We tend to think of them predominantly, especially on the institutional side, as a wealth management investment vehicle. So who's managing your money? But depending on how complicated a family's life is, it also includes household services and management of their philanthropy, just sort of every issue that a family may face, business management, payroll, a whole host of things when you're thinking of a single family office. And so whether or not you focus on a single family or a multifamily, or if you have your family office services embedded within an institution, is a very personal discussion about kind of levels of wealth and complexity around what families want to do. So I have the benefit of having worked for single family offices for families that had very clear vision about what they wanted to do with their philanthropy, how they wanted to invest their money. And that has been a real joy for me. It dovetails back to what Mel was just talking about in terms of social impact and social impact strategies, because one thing that I've been seeing as a trend for ultra high net worth individuals and high net worth individuals who have family offices is this concept around direct investment, which is important to all of us because the goal is that it will, in some respects, alleviate the fact that venture capital and private equity are not investing in businesses of women and people of color, except at single digits, that families on the other side of that who have money, including some of those that I've worked with, have decided, well, okay, if the traditional money managers don't care about investing with women and people of color and they're not agnostic, then we want to start to invest directly because, like I said, Warren Buffett said, we want to bet on America, and we know that there are demographic changes. So one of the wonderful things, tying this to the social impact investing on the direct investing side from family offices, is that you're seeing more of an opportunity as entrepreneurs or small business owners to get connected and individually, sort of, I say Shark Tank style, it's which one of, and in some respects, that's what it is. Which one of the sharks who has a bunch of money wants to invest directly? And why are they doing that? They're doing that because institutions are not changing how they invest to invest in the businesses and the causes that people care about. So families have said, you know what? If our wealth advisors are not going to invest in women and people of color, or they're not going to tell us, you know what, it's not just about return, but we understand you want social capital as a part of your return, and they're not going to invest your money in things like health equity or reducing the maternal mortality rate in this country or clean justice initiatives in underserved communities of color, then we're going to go out and do that directly. Because, yeah, we want a return on our money, but we also want to live in a country where people are recognized for their contributions and their ability to innovate, and we're funding the best businesses, not just the whitest businesses. And so that's an amazing lesson I see, and I implore anyone in the room who works for financial and traditional wealth advisors to get with that program, or you're going to find that the millennials and the next gen that are moving into their parents' money as we do the transition from the boomers to millennials don't want to invest with you because you're not answering some of the pressing issues that are important to them. And that's one of the things that I see on the horizon for family offices that has me just really, really excited about how we might see change and real and good change in the country. I have sat with some of my families that I represent getting presentations from traditional wealth advisors, and they ask, okay, well, how do I know that what you're doing is also going to move the needle in something that I care about? And when we get answers that say we don't know, they leave in frustration, and what they're turning around and doing is finding those opportunities themselves. So that's a good thing, a very good thing.
Yeah, I think that's right. I think if you are not paying attention to the trends and the change, you will be left behind.
Thank you. So one last question. So we're in the end of December at this point, ending the year. We're going to be going to 2024. Is there one thing you would suggest that a strategy that we can employ to help take an affirmative step to creating wealth in the future?
Sure. I mean, as I think about it, investing for impact really means taking a look at the world's most pressing problems and figuring out who is solving them. A good example that we at UBS feel strongly about is diabetes and obesity. in terms of healthcare challenges. And that tends to disproportionately affect communities of color. So those who invest in solutions that really tackle that challenge are what we're really excited about in 2024. And actually the pullback that we're seeing in the market creates an attractive entry point to really invest in companies that are driving solutions in that space. So that's one example, if I say nothing else. And I think we all know the crazes that we've seen and read about around weight loss management. But those are the kinds of things, and that's the approach that I think we should be taking a step back and thinking about. Clean tech would be another one that is resonating quite well.
I guess if I could make a plea, it would be, I was at a talk recently where they were giving the statistics about how many of our HBCUs are in broadband deserts. And one of the kind of predictions for who will make money and create intergenerational wealth in the future will be those who are tackling the problems that businesses are currently facing. And one of the major problems that businesses are facing is the collection and maintenance and digitization of data. And so there is all of this data coming out. And to the extent that we can lobby and push for children in primary education at our HBCUs and women's colleges to have access to the tools to train themselves to create solutions around data and technology, we will have the potential to launch the next group of billionaires and hopefully the Black and brown and women faces that I'll be able to support in the future. So push for that around your communities.
Thank you both.
Right.
Thank you both.
Okay. All right. Thank you, ladies and Felix. Are you feeling empowered? Yes. This is the thing. You want to feel empowered by all these people, and they are so empowering. And we're going to continue in that vein because our next guest leads his institution in a way that helps both his clients and the communities around him thrive. Think about that. So please help me welcome the chairman and Chief Executive Officer of KeyBank, Christopher Gorman, and Operation Hope CEO, John Hope Bryant.
Enjoying your day? Are you enjoying your day? You know, I said this before, I'll say it again. I think I said it last night. The Bible suggests be hot or be cold. If you're lukewarm, I'll spat you out. Translation, even God is not like mediocrity. You're going to do something, do it with both feet. So if you're going to show up here, show up with every ounce of energy you got. Give the world everything you've got. Lean in, contribute, be passionate. So one more time, how you doing? Chris Gorman is the CEO of KeyBank, and for the longest time, I thought he was a bit of a stiff shirt. I didn't know him.
Well, you never told me that before. You thought it was a stiff?
I thought you were stiff, but because you were removed from me. We didn't have a personal relationship, and I just saw you through the lens of your team, who did a great job of curating your movements, and nothing negative. I just thought, here's a guy that is, and I was wrong because I kept seeing you in weird places. And I saw you, the first time you caught my attention, I thought, okay, I've got Chris wrong. Was you were at the Treasury Department, not for meetings about the monetary system or the infrastructure for the country, or you were there for the Freedmen's Bank. It was a Freedmen's Bank forum.
Yep.
And very important. Now, mind you, he's a CEO of one of the largest banks in the country, which means in the world, with the largest economy in the world. And you get in these positions, and it's natural to have an ego, and you need to be like the focus of attention. That wasn't Chris. He was at the coffee station and came over and said hello to me. I don't know if you remember that conversation.
I remember it.
He was sitting in the back of the room at Treasury Department for the Freedmen's Bank Forum, was not on the program, was there observing. If you don't know, the Freedmen's Bank was created by Abraham Lincoln. It was inspired by a black pastor out of New York who actually came up with the original idea of the Freedmen's Bank to basically domicile the savings of black Union soldiers in the Civil War. And he inspired Congress, but really Abraham Lincoln, to create the Freedmen's Bank March 3rd, 1865, bank charter to teach free slaves about money. And Frederick Douglass took over the bank when Abraham Lincoln was unfortunately assassinated in April of 1865, the next month. And so we were instrumental in getting the Treasury Department, Secretary Jack Lew, Wale Adeyemo, Deputy Secretary of the Treasury now, who's here with us, to get the bank building renamed. And they created a Freedmen's Bank Forum. And so I attend this forum, and here's this guy in the back of the room, and it didn't make sense to me because I'm thinking, I'm almost positive this is the CEO. And then he walks up to me at the coffee station, and you started a conversation with me, and clearly you knew all the history. You were there. I said, okay, this is a fluke. The next year, here's Chris again. Meet him at the coffee station. He's also there now. He's on the program, and I talked to my team. We're talking to Key Bank about doing stuff, and then I hear we've got a partnership, and of course we got a chance to spend some quality time together. Finally, opening one of our locations together. Help me understand. I'm continually, again, a case for optimism. Yeah. I'm continually pleasantly surprised. I love being disappointed. I love being wrong about people when I have the wrong expectation about their high frequency. You were high frequency. I thought you were no frequency. I thought you were just neutral. Clearly you had this passion. Clearly you had this interest. Nobody's perfect. No institution's perfect. The fact that you stepped into this experience at the Freedmen's Bank said something to me about you. You didn't send somebody. You showed up yourself. Why?
Well, I just think it's important to, first of all, I just want to, thank you for us being part of this, and thank you for your partnership over the years.
Honored.
And by the way, this whole making a case for optimism, I don't know how you guys feel, but that really resonates with me. There's a million pessimists out there. Nothing's perfect. But I think making a case for optimism, there's a lot to be said. So let's give John a hand.
Oh, thank you. Thank you.
So,
by the way, you're stuck with me as a new friend.
Good. There's nothing better than a new friend that becomes an old friend. You know, the reason that I show up is I think we can make a difference. And I think I can make a difference. I think about my responsibility as running Key. And, you know, we at Key are only as strong as the communities in which we operate. We have 3.5 million customers. We have 17,000 employees, but all of our employees and all of our customers come from the communities that we serve. And so as a consequence, the stronger we can make the communities that we serve and serve every day, the better for all, you know, kind of expanding the pie. So I just feel like we have a responsibility, and I think we're in a position where I think we can make a difference. I think we can transform people's lives. And when you talk about credit availability, whether it's someone buying their first house, opening their first business, retiring, sending their kid to college, I just think we can make a difference, and I think we have a responsibility to, and I also think it just makes a ton of sense for our country.
Yeah, that wasn't the question I was asking you. That was, you answered the question, but that wasn't the question I was asking
Yep.
you. I read people really,
Yep.
it's one of my few talents.
Yep.
I read people really well.
Yep. Yep.
I can see BS coming. I can see drama coming.
Yep.
I can see insincerity coming.
Yep.
I have no interest in it. I want a
Yep.
drama-free zone
Yep. Yep.
around me. I walk through life consciously oblivious of most things.
Yep.
So I'm focused on, and when I saw you, I met you, I focused on you.
Yep.
And there's something in you beyond what you said.
Yep.
That's personal.
Yep.
I don't know your story, but something underneath that causes you to care.
Yep.
And drives all this other stuff you're doing at the bank. I want to know.
Yeah.
We want to know, don't we?
Yeah.
We want to know what's that.
So look, I think we're all a product of our background, whatever it is.
Yes.
So I lived in Mexico City from the time I was 6 until I was 12. And that's an interesting, when you live in a different country and you don't speak the language, I think you learn a lot. Happens to be that, Mexico is obviously on a relative basis compared to the United States an impoverished place. I went to a huge public high school in Indianapolis, Indiana. We had 3,600 kids in 3 grades. We had some of everything. It was very integrated.
You had black friends growing up.
We had a ton.
Yeah.
I played basketball, had a ton of black friends. And the school that I went to, there were people that were advantaged and disadvantaged from, whites, blacks. I could go down the whole list. And I just think, I just learned a lot. I'm a student of people like you are. And I just thought, there's a way that we can play a role that we can lift everybody up. So that's kind of what drives me.
And
That's my background.
And the decency, is it anything to do with your family environment, good or bad?
No, my family are very hardworking, decent people. Obviously, to their credit, they were accepting of all. That's why we ended up living in foreign countries and doing things like that.
Yes.
And I think that's really helpful, because I wasn't just around people that looked like me my whole life. And we were my family, just really solid, caring people.
And is it then, would it be a jump? Would it be a presumption to then suggest that one of the reasons you keep doubling down and trying to execute on your business plan, even when it's frustrating, even when some people are criticizing you, even when people say you're not hitting the mark, and maybe you are, maybe you aren't, but you keep at it, is it because of this childhood experience that some people don't have the shot that you had?
That's a big part of it. I think this whole notion of giving everybody an opportunity. And I think, look, things go wrong. I mean, things go wrong in business, things go wrong in life. And whether it's our business, whether it's our customers, whether it's our prospects, I think you just got to be really resilient. And I think helping people be resilient, we have to be resilient. And if we're not resilient, how can we expect our customers and our prospects to be resilient? I just think resiliency is important.
Resiliency is my middle name.
Yeah, I mean, you got it.
Absolutely. I take no for vitamins.
Yeah. No,
I believe success is going from failure to failure without loss of enthusiasm.
I mean, anyone that on any given day has everything going their way isn't paying attention or isn't trying hard enough. Because it's just life.
I think that I just keep looking at the clock because I want to make sure we get all the substance in. And I'm just so fascinated.
Yeah.
I'm talking to leaders like you because I think people got to figure out how people like you work, how your brain works, so they can replicate the good stuff embedded in their DNA and their business system. They don't get a chance to have candid conversations like this or observe them.
Well, and I think this ties in with a lot of the other stuff. I talk about being durable.
Definitely.
You've got to be durable. Like, bad things happen. I don't care if it's in your family, sickness, something unexpected, financially something happens. For us, it was March 7th of this year, and all of a sudden Silicon Valley Bank failed, and the game just changed.
Yeah.
And I had the team in all weekend. I said, look, guys, we've got to be out in front of our clients.
Yeah.
We got to be really resilient.
I sent you a
We
note
got to
about
be,
it. Yeah.
we got to be really durable. People are questioning if the whole system is stable. People are questioning, we have $145 billion of deposits. We had to be out talking to our customers, making sure they felt good about it. So, this whole notion of being durable, being resilient, I personally think is the biggest determinant of success in life. There's a lot of different things, but if you are those two things, I think you win. And I think that applies to whether it's financial education, whether it's applied to it applies to getting your credit score up, all the things that you do so well, John.
Thank you.
Being durable and being resilient is what it's all about.
Being durable, being resilient, being focused.
Yep.
But also being authentic.
Yep.
I hate fakes.
Yep.
And again, it struck me when we met and when you came, you were curious, you were nosy.
Yeah.
Quincy Jones, I asked Quincy Jones, one of my mentors, how'd you get so smart?
Yeah.
He said, I'm just nosy as hell.
Yeah.
I want to know everything about everything. And you were nosy. You wanted to come talk to me. I would have wanted to come talk to you. But you were curious to me. How'd you do this? What the history of the bank? What are you doing right now, John? You're always learning.
The smartest people in the world are the people that ask the most questions and are intellectually curious. Because think about everyone's life experience sitting here. Think about, Ed Bastian, who just walked in, who's going to be, I don't know anything about what it's like to run an airline. I
He just knows what it's like to run a bank.
No, I could spend a half hour asking him about, what does it take? How do you figure out the routes? How do you figure out where you want to play?
Yeah, whenever you're around smart people, they're always asking questions. And the dummies always want to give you commercials for like 35 minutes.
Right.
But really, smart people are always asking. That's why God gave you 2 ears and 1 mouth.
Yep.
So you listen twice as much as you talk. And so again, when I was told that we had our partnership and we were going in together to Buffalo and going to open a location together, I thought that was really, really cool because we get to spend some more time together.
Yep.
And I could find out what was underneath this person who cared so much.
Yep.
And you were, once again, comfortable in an underserved community.
Oh, yeah.
And we did a couple interviews together. And most importantly, we launched this branch together. And you leaned over to me when the cameras weren't on and the mics were off. And you said something to me that changed my whole life. And I've been ripping off your quote ever since. I've used your quote, Dr. King, by the way. Martin Luther King used to say, by the way, I know this. Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. and my mentor, Ambassador Andrew Young, our global spokesman, and Mayor, by the way, Mayor Andre Dickens will be here later as our co-chair. And thank him for his support. Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. gave his last staff meeting for SCLC for the Poor People's Campaign about 30 yards from here in that ballroom across the hall. The last meeting he ever held was right here in this hotel, moving from civil rights to civil rights, from the streets to the suites. And so we're in this historical moment, and I think that we're in the third Reconstruction, opportunity for all.
Mm-hmm.
And I do believe there's a case that we've got to make for optimism. I can't guarantee you that being positive is going to make you a success, but I absolutely guarantee you that being negative will make you fail.
That is so true.
And by the way, nobody likes a miserable person.
That's also true.
Yeah. So you're not miserable. You're positive. You punch through problems. Again, some people have criticized you to me, and I've said to them, I like what Chris is doing much better than what you're not doing. And so you showed up they weren't criticizing you, by the way. They're criticizing banking, by the way. And by the way, there is no perfect.
Well, and that's another thing. You have to have you have to have thick skin. I mean,
to be a leader.
To be a leader, you have to have the courage of your convictions. You have to be very intellectually honest about what's working and what's not. And on any given day, there's some of each. But there's also, it's easy to, anyone could anyone can take a shot at John. I mean, you know, all he
And they
did is gather 5,400 people, and you know, maybe it should have been 6,400. I don't know, but it's easy when you're out front, and you just got to be, you know, honest. But by the same token, you can't be deterred. You need to listen to people when they're critical of you, but you can't be deterred.
Yeah, again, it goes back to your resilience.
Yeah.
In your so, but in the midst of this, again, you've got this optimism, and you continue to punch forward. So you said something. So I was saying the story about Martin Luther King Jr. So you guys thought I lost my place.
I didn't.
Thank you, Chris.
I knew you were coming around.
Dr. King would listen to preachers.
Yeah.
And he'd say, "Hey, Joe, I really like what you said. I'm gonna give you credit the first 3 times. The 4th time is mine." and I love this quote from Melody Hobson. I keep giving her credit for it. She says, "I love math because it doesn't have an opinion."
Mm-hmm.
And you said something to me in Buffalo at the ribbon cutting that rocked my world. Do you remember it?
I do remember it.
Can you share with the audience what you said to me? It was gangster.
I said the only freedom in life is financial freedom, and I really believe that. I mean, if you know,
so slow it down. I want you to be critical of that statement. I want you to be critical of what he just said. Think about it. Let's roll it back. Religious freedom. Somebody can take it away from you. Help me out. Political freedom. Someone can take it away. People trying to do it right now. Help me out. Social freedom. Mental mindset. Slavery messed up the minds of the enslaved people. They took it away from them. I believe some people are still depressed today because of that generational curse. Help me out. Anybody can take away something that you don't have control over. So then you said, what you really said to me was, you put the word only. It is possible that the only true freedom is financial freedom. I've been wearing that out ever since you said it. I think I've given you credit a couple of times.
You don't need to give me credit for it. I'm sure I got it from somebody. No.
But why did you? That was so wise, Chris. Tell us why you said that. And then we're going to get into our partnership.
Financial freedom enables you to live where you want to live, do what you want to do, help other people out that you want to help out. I just think if you think about it, it just gives you, if you have financial freedom, you're not trapped. You're not trapped in some bad relationship. You're not trapped in living in a city you don't want to live in. You're not trapped in a job that you don't find satisfying. You can do what you want to do. And there's a reason that, throughout history, people have literally died for their freedom because it's the most important thing.
So, and as we wrap, Chris, tell us what we're doing together.
Sure. I'd love
around financial freedom.
Yeah. So I'd love to talk about that. So, John and I were sitting in the parking lot of our branch in East Buffalo, and I'll come back to what we're doing together, but it just shows that doing the kind of work that John does and that many, many of you in the room do can really make a difference. We had put that branch, Wiki had put that branch in this, we call it the Delavon branch, but we had put it in a really tough area that was kind of a desert.
Yep.
And as John and I sat there, guess what? Once we put, and it was like a CVS or a Walgreens. You can almost tell by looking at it. Because it's too big to be a branch. It looks like a drugstore, like a CVS or Walgreens. And we're sitting there, and guess what? Around the whole thing, on each corner now, completely redone. So that this whole notion of being a catalyst, of making an investment, giving someone the opportunity to raise capital. So getting back to what we're doing, is this hope inside. And so what we want to do is, as you think, people talk about income disparity, the real disparity is wealth disparity, right? We know that. I mean, that's the real challenge right now. And one of the ways you get around that is helping people buy a house, helping people start a business, and getting people's credit scores up. And this whole notion of hope inside is, banks are not liked. And the reason we're not liked, candidly, is banks are the only people that tell people no, right? And in the society that we live in, no, John, you can't have that credit card or for this reason or that reason, then obviously it's bad for our business, it's bad for the
Brand.
communities, it's bad for everything.
Yeah.
So the question is, how do you get to a point where you don't just tell people no, you tell people no, not now, but if you do this, and this, there's a well-worn path that goes to yes.
Yes.
And that is what motivated us to get involved with you, to have a program where, look, when you decline people for credit, you can walk people through. Here's your credit report. Here are the things that you can fix. And by the way, it's very prescriptive. There's not a lot of voodoo to it. I mean, it's just like,
Yeah.
if you do this, then
Yeah.
the number goes from
Yeah.
here to here.
Yeah.
And so this whole notion, I've always wanted to have an opportunity where when we weren't bringing people into the banking system, and by the way, keeping people out of the banking system is a terrible idea. That's
right.
Check cashing, and I can go down the
Yeah.
whole list. So our need is to bring people in. And this whole notion of hope inside is when someone doesn't qualify for credit, what do they need to do and by when? And then when they qualify, make sure that they avail themselves to everything that's out there. One of the challenges, there's many, many good programs, but a lot of them, they don't reside in one person. For example, if someone's buying a house, we provide money for either a down payment, for repairs, for closing costs, because that's what's hard, right? What's hard is to come up with the initial downstroke. And this whole notion of hope inside is basically a way to go from no, not yet, to now we're ready, to here's how you do it. That's in a short version. That's what excites me about hope inside. And as you know, we're up and running in a bunch of places, and we'll be up and running in a bunch more places.
And when we got together, we're out of time, but so excited about that. When we got together in Buffalo, you went to one of the worst neighborhoods in Buffalo. You put your bucket down there. You remodeled this now beautiful branch.
Yep.
You empowered people who look like me to run the dang on thing,
Yep.
to run the whole program. They actually like you. Your employees actually think you're a cool guy, which is very indicative.
Yeah.
And they say good things about you behind your back, which is a beautiful thing.
Yeah.
And when I want you to, do you know the address of this?
We call it the Delavon branch. I don't know. It's on Delavon Street. I just don't know what the address.
So I want you guys to search the next couple of days.
It's East Buffalo Delavon branch.
Buffalo.
Key Bank Delavon branch, East Buffalo.
And Hope Inside.
Look at and Hope Inside.
Don't try to take our word for it. Look this branch up. It was a horrible neighborhood, destroyed in many ways, low levels of hope. They went in, they put this branch there, and literally McDonald's new across the street, new CVS across the street, new gas station across the street. What used to be drugs and murder and mayhem and depression is now economic activity and jobs and prosperity. And now the whole place has a pulse and a resonance. You can do this. We can do this. These are not poor people. These are underserved people. And if you do what Chris is saying, you can make a capitalism work for all of God's children. Join me in saying thank you to Chris Gorman.
Hence the case for optimism. You're the best. Thank you. It's a privilege.
Brian, founder of Operation Hope, and we're talking about the 1865 project, the work that continues, the unfinished work of the Freedmen's Bank of 1865, March 3rd, when Abraham Lincoln and Frederick Douglass came together to create a bank chartered to teach freed slaves about money. Unfortunately, Lincoln was assassinated soon after that, but the work today continues. And how you can help is to join as a member of the 1865 project, support our work on the ground, from the streets to the suites, from civil rights to civil rights. The second thing you can do is make a hope commitment in your community, where you live, where you work, where you operate, where you love. A commitment of your own design to take our tools at Operation Hope and make a difference where you love, live, and have life. Make a hope commitment today. You design it, submit it, operationalize it. We will acknowledge it, and we will salute you as part of the movement of civil rights when you're done.
All right, you heard it, the 1865 Project. I hope you will consider giving to the 1865 Project to help Operation Hope grow and scale their work to help more people. So if you don't know much about it, just Google it. You're going to find out lots of good information. And speaking of helping people, please help me welcome two great leaders who have dedicated their lives to that principle. First, the Chief Executive Officer of Delta Airlines, Mr. Ed Bastian, and Operation Hope CEO, John Hope Bryant.
Ed Bastian!
Wow. That's great energy, my friend.
You can sit down.
Thank you.
This is one of the coolest CEOs on the planet, and he taught me how to wear tennis shoes with my suits.
Yeah, I think you've passed me now. You're going whites on me. That's
So
level.
let me make this easy. And we don't have time for this conversation. And you guys are going to be really shocked because this time I'm going to shut up.
I'd be shocked.
He's got so much to say, and I want you to hear it all. Have you enjoyed this so far? Biggest airline in the world, most profitable airline in the world, wealthiest airline in the world, happiest airline in the world, in the busiest airport in the world, in the ATL, biggest employer in Georgia, I believe.
Yeah.
And he's a nice guy. This is my brother from another mother.
Amen.
Amen. See, he's an honorary brother. He's an amen. There's so much to unpack here.
Yeah.
I remember you called me before the pandemic, and you had planned on hitting the mark of profitability that you set with your board, and you wanted to do something novel, take profits above the number you hit to make Wall Street comfortable expectations, which you told analysts, and anything you hit above that, if your employees helped you hit above that, you want to share that with your employees in profit sharing.
Mm-hmm.
And you wanted to actually go on CNBC, you and I did it together, to announce a number. And I figured, okay, it's 50 million or something, it's a respectable number. My man's like, no, it's $1 billion. Then the next year, we did it on Valentine's Day.
Mm-hmm.
It was $2 billion. Profit sharing. I'm talking about line workers. I'm talking about the flight attendants. I'm talking about the ramp workers. You want to know why Delta people are so smart? Right over here.
Thank you.
Because nobody washes rental cars. Because people felt they were part of this. There's another model other than frustrated, my mother was part of a union, frustrated union workers thinking that they're in conflict with their employer. That is a prescription for failure. The Bible says a house divided cannot stand.
That's right.
You cannot be you cannot be in battle with your partner and expect to succeed. We'll always be speaking Mandarin in 10 years if that is how we behave. There is a country trying to beat us. They want your way of life. There are two countries, Russia, they luckily have shot themselves in the foot, quite literally, and China. They want to be you. They can't win on a fair fight. They got to cheat at capitalism. They got to get us to fight against us. Everybody wants to be an American but Americans. So
It's true.
we got to figure out how can we be better together.
Mm-hmm.
And what Ed did, I'm not sure if you did it in consciousness. I know my friend Pete Stavros at KKR also has this sort of profit sharing model. He had this model where, look, we are the same team. As we succeed, let you succeed too, so that all boats rise.
That's right.
Then what happened during the pandemic, when everybody else had all these problems and had to lay people off, you couldn't do profit sharing because there were no profits. But your employees didn't. They're like, we're with you. And they took voluntary, what is it called?
Voluntary leaves of absence.
Furloughs, right?
Yeah, without pay, yeah.
Without pay for 2 years. And when the pandemic began to ease up, you can't make this up. The pandemic begins to ease up and we start turning the corner of the economy. The employees didn't come back, rally with you. And it was the most profitable airline reentry in the history of the pandemic and in the modern history of America. They rallied back with him.
And one thing to that, John, the other thing you have to add on to that, we did not furlough a single employee during the pandemic. Not one. Only airline that can say that.
And this last thing I'll say now, I'm going to try to shut up.
No, you're doing good. These are the best kind of interviews.
So you called me. I remember I was 9 p.m. I think it was a Tuesday. I'm in Peachtree City. I was turning a corner. You called me, John, I need to run something by you. You talked to this person, talked to that person. You were really tore up about this issue of the vote. And you said, and I'm going to paraphrase, I was sitting with some legislators. They mean well, but they have a different sort of view of the world. And I'm trying to make a bad bill less bad. And you talk to some of your minority employees. You have a lot of them. Women, people of color, people who are, in some underserved group. And after you talked to them, you said, John, I realized I can't just make a bad bill less bad. I got to make a good bill better, or I got to stand up for what a good bill would look like, because I want you to say the quote, because I can't be as eloquent as you. You said the right to vote is
sacred.
Did you hear that? The right to vote is sacred. So he asked me my opinion. I gave him my opinion. I thought it was actually, a basic thing that which should not be debatable or controversial. So he comes out and he gets a bunch of crap about it from some people. He holds his ground. I can't say, gotta get into detail. He holds his ground, and here comes 100 CEOs right behind him saying, I'm with you, Ed. I'm with you, Ed. I'm with you, Ed. And they all stand up for the right to vote, for those who are unseen and unheard. These are the things and decisions that nobody sees behind closed doors that makes a great leader truly worthy of the love that he's going to get today. You are truly a special human being.
Thank you, my friend.
You stand up. The only time you call me every year is to come to a fundraiser to help with cancer research, because your brother had cancer.
Right.
He's
For childhood cancer, yeah.
Yeah, and children who's had cancer. What did I miss? And why is all this important to be CEO? And then I want to get to what we're doing together, which is really important.
Well,
That's
first of all, thank you for that, and thank you all for being here. I think this is probably like the 6th or 7th year in a row that I've been on stage with you, and I hope you just have my permanent time slot for the next decade laid in, because I love coming here.
Ed is my easiest yes.
And I love seeing the mission grow and prosper and expand and impact our country and impact the world eventually. One of the things at Delta that we hold dear is our people and taking care of our people. And it's one of the things that our founder almost 100 years ago said when he founded Delta Airlines. If you take care of your people, they in turn will take care of your customers, who will enable the company to grow and build and create prosperity.
Yeah.
That's the model. Taking care of your own first.
Yeah.
Not taking care of someone else, taking care of your own.
Yeah.
And the 100,000 people of Delta Airlines are who I obsess on all day long, every day, in terms of what we can do to enable their success, for their wellness, both financially as well as physically, for the tools to do a great job, the technology needed, the innovation, the reliability of the product and the service levels to keep customers happy and coming back. And they're the very best at hospitality. They're the very best at service within the airline industry. So everything that you mentioned about Delta is true, but it's true for one reason. It's not true because of me, it's true because of us and all 100,000 of us that make a difference.
And yes, absolutely. And is that also why you thought that the right to vote was such an easy thing to be for?
Well, it's easy to be for, but it's hard to stand up when no one else is standing up.
Yeah.
Right. And so there was no way I could let that go. And everyone was looking candidly at me. And if Delta wasn't going to say something, if I wasn't going to say something, I think we'd be in a different time today. And we got our message across. We got it across. It was a hard message, but it was the right message.
And done with decency and respect for everybody.
With decency and respect for everyone trying to do the right thing.
Yeah.
And then we continue to work on it, continue to make progress. And that's the only way. So getting back to your beginning question about why we're here and about our people with respect to wellness and taking good care of them, the profit sharing it's incredible. And we're back this year. By the way, we will come this Valentine's Day, have another $1 billion to share with our people. So I tell everybody Valentine's Day is the best day to fly Delta because everybody's happy, everybody's in good spirit. And if you're a car dealer in town, or if you have something you're selling, you want to be putting your best sales out Valentine's Day, the week after Valentine's Day, because our people are out shopping. So it'll be a good week.
And by the way, if you have a mobile application for employment, my guess is the numbers are going up about right now.
Exactly.
Working at Delta.
But when we think about the pandemic and what it did to us, what it illuminated was the fact that we needed to take better care of our wellness.
Yeah.
And obviously physical was prominent because of the virus, but it was far deeper than that.
Yeah.
That was one thing that we had to fight. But wellness, touched on our emotional wellness and well-being. And we saw it during that crisis, and we've seen the aftermath of that crisis about what the damage it laid on communities, on individuals, on families. Yeah. Our social well-being and our ability to feel comfortable, within our communities, and also our financial well-being. Mm-hmm. And I said that we did a great job. I thought our team did the very best job we could do with the physical well-being, with the vaccinations, with the blocking the middle seats throughout the pandemic, with ensuring that the cabin environment, the airport environment, the cleanest that you could ever find. But we had so many underlying causes that were also needed to be tended to. Mm. And I think a bedrock to a lot of this is financial insecurity. Mm. And when we talk about the facts that 1 in 4 Americans have no ability to withstand any kind of financial emergency at all. We talk about 50% of Americans don't have $1,000 that they could put their hands on today in the event of a financial emergency, and the amount of stress that creates and the amount of insecurity that sits at the core of it. I said, I can't solve that for the world, but I can solve that for Delta Airlines, for the 100,000 people of Delta Airlines, and hopefully get the movement going amongst other corporations and other responsible citizens in the world to make certain that we're tackling it from a business standpoint, not just a community standpoint or a nonprofit standpoint or a government standpoint. Mm-hmm. Businesses have the resources to make a difference, and businesses need to stand up and do something about that. And so we launched, thank you. We launched at the start at the program last year. I announced that we were going to be doing something about that, introducing this financial training and literacy program in concert with Operation Hope. And we launched in January. And I'm proud to say that we've already had 30,000 people sign up. Now we got 100,000, 30%, 30,000 people to do something and take action is meaningful, and it's still less than a year in. Over 20,000 have already completed the program and have received the emergency funds, which is $1,000 of that. There's strings attached only in that we ask people to sign up to take online literacy courses to help them better manage, work on a financial wellness track with a coach. And once they complete that track, the $1,000 is there sending. And the results, and Kelly Elliott, who manages this program within Delta, is going to come up after this, and she's going to talk from the specifics. But we released a white paper in concert with this program you're holding this week to announce the impact that's had on our people, and it's phenomenal. Over 50% of the respondents that have taken it said they've had substantial improvements in their overall feeling of security, their financial security. They've all started to contribute to their own emergency savings fund. So it's not just a handout, it's very much a hand up, trying to get things going.
Yeah.
And I think the average participant has contributed out of his or her own funds $1,000 on top of our $1,000 and starting to make a real difference in terms of their ability to control and manage the future. And we're just getting started. It's pretty cool. The other thing, our people over the course of this year have participated in over 3.5 million hours of financial literacy training. I don't think there's anything that I've ever heard of that you've had that size of impact on individuals, all voluntary.
3.5 million?
3.5 million hours. 3.5 million hours. And over 37,000 sessions with a financial coach. Isn't that cool? Isn't that cool?
So do you guys understand what you just heard? This is the biggest airline in the world. They took my little irritation and needling and took it seriously. Joanne Smith, the global HR officer, who's Joanne, God bless you, and her team embedded this. I want to give Fidelity credit as well, because that's where they domicile the 401k money. And they said, well, we're going to give our employees a choice. Go to Operation Hope and Fidelity, and take the financial literacy coursework. And when you complete that, you'll get $1,000 emergency savings account that's all yours. What other employer does this? And they launched this in January, as he said. They thought for the whole year you'd have what, 20,000 people?
Probably. Yeah.
For the whole year. They hit that mark within
the first 3 or 4 months. Over 20,000 had signed up. Yeah.
And now I can't get on an airline. Every time I get on an airline, half of the crew are like, would you like an extra Coke? I mean, they all love this program. I mean, it's making me cry. People giving me care packages and writing notes on it and saying that this changed their life. Guy telling me that him and his wife, flight attendant, are no longer arguing. I'm trying not to get emotional. This guy came to me. It's a black man. I mean, it takes a lot for him to be vulnerable. Yeah. And he said, my wife and I are not arguing anymore about money. We argued all the time. It was destroying our relationship. It solved so many problems. We didn't understand that this was we didn't know what we didn't know. We were smart in other areas, just not in money. And then the $1,000 was enough to pay some critical bills that took the pain off. There's another lady, I can't mention her name, but she takes me when I show up at the airport. She's like, I was taking care of my sister and whatever, and I had to tell my sister, I love you, but you got to take care of yourself.
That's right.
And she started paying off her credit cards and putting some money aside and now the light's on. Her self-esteem is up. Her shoulders are back. She's back.
Yeah.
She's back.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just changing people's lives. If your day's not about God or love, your day's about money. Real talk. And when you remove the stress of somebody financially, you change their lives.
Amen.
And for Delta Airlines to do this, and then I just mentioned casually to Joanne, maybe we should do a report on this. You guys to issue a report on the impacts of this, which are just, I understand, unbelievable. This will be the first corporation in the history of America to issue a report on financial well-being, and I'm proud to say it features Operation Hope.
Absolutely. Well, financial well-being is at the core, as you mentioned, of so many challenges in today's society, and we want to succeed. It's not just that we're doing the right thing, we're doing the smart thing, right? Because we want our people to come and to continue to serve better and to perform better and to grow our business better and take more markets and more routes and more opportunities for the world. But if they can't show up and be the best that they can be that day because they're stressed out about something else, it doesn't, it just is, it's unfulfilling. So our opportunity to do what would appear to be the right thing, to me, is also the smart thing. And it's the strategic thing. And that's where it's not a hand up, or it's not a hand out, it's a hand up. Because to get the $1,000, we'll put $750 in, but you get the other $250 once you put $250 of your own money in, and then we'll match it dollar for dollar. So they're already starting out with $1,250.
Yeah.
Even though it's 1,000, right?
$1,250.
Just to continue to get that process started. And then, we have a 401k program that we provide 3% upfront, and then dollar for dollar match for the next 6% of their contributions in.
That's
And
free
so
money.
it takes, it just takes a few years before you start building
Generational wealth.
some generational wealth, and you start changing outcomes for the long term, which is what we're all about here.
And I mean, it is true that 95% of all employees stressed out about money on the job. I mean, people are ashamed to admit this. Can I get an amen?
Amen.
I mean, 70% of us are living from paycheck to paycheck. Half of those making $100,000 a year are living from paycheck to paycheck. A quarter of those who make $250,000 a year are living from paycheck to paycheck. I'm not talking about poor people. I'm talking about you. And if you live in Manhattan and you make $100,000 a year, it feels like $39,000 a year.
Mm-hmm.
But we're ashamed to have this conversation. And it corrodes your self-esteem. It corrodes your confidence. It corrodes your joy. And if I don't like me, I'm not going to like you. If I don't feel good about me, I'm not going to feel good about you. If I don't respect me, I'm not going to respect you. If I don't love me, I don't have a clue how to love you. And here's the big one. If I don't have a purpose in my life, I'm going to make your life a living hell. Whatever goes around, comes around. Ed knows this. Ed travels on these planes, and I get notes from people who embarrassed because they're in first class and Ed's in coach. Like Ed will get on the plane and go right to the back. And he's just chilling. You guys know what chilling means?
It's a lot more fun back there.
It's a lot more fun back there.
That's where all the real people are.
What do you want this audience to know? The reason I celebrate you, and in fact, this is the fact, other than the fact that I genuinely like you as a human being, we spend time together, we go to dinner together, our families know each other. I think it was a test, by the way. I helped your daughter with something that she needed some help with. It's not just struggling people that need help. Ed's daughter needed some assistance as well. She aced it like a star. I still think it was a test, but not only to celebrate you as a human being, but I do believe that we need heroes and sheroes in business today. And this whole thing that you got to be, in order to be a capitalist, you got to be a jerk, is a lie.
Absolutely.
And the reason I celebrate people like you is I want folks to understand there's decency in the C-suite. And you can do well and do good at the same time.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And not only can you have to, because what are we trying to do with leadership? We're trying to create followership. We're trying to create people that continue to make a difference towards their purpose collectively, not individually. And you need a leader that has authenticity and transparency to be able to tell the truth and to be able to be vulnerable at times, because we also don't have all the answers. And it was, again, never more prevalent than the pandemic, where none of us knew what the heck was going on around us. All we knew is that we needed to hold on to each other to get through and step through. And this year, in 2023, 3 years removed from when we were just flat on our back, Delta will have its highest revenues in its history because of the leadership that the company displayed, taking great care of people. So thank you all for that.
So we are wrapping this up. I could talk to Ed all day. He's got an airline to run.
Got a plane to catch.
Got
Going out to Utah.
Are you going to Utah?
I got a big employee event there.
But every time I call you, you answer the phone. Answer this last question. We're done. Every time I call you, answer the phone. When I don't call you, you call. You say I'm on board for the next year. Every time we do this forum, you link me to the UPS CEO. You link me to this person, that person. You're always answering. Your brother tells me when he had cancer, you called him every single day. Give one message of optimism for this audience about being able to multitask heart and head. Give them some piece, some nugget of wisdom to walk away from.
Well, I love your theme. We talked about, John asked me about the theme earlier in the year, what would the theme of this conference should be, and I love where you landed in terms of optimism, reason for optimism. There is so much strife. There's so much divisiveness. There's so many people saying that you can't. We need to create people who say we can, and that we will make certain that our generations to come will be in a far better place than anything that we've ever seen. And that's the thing that gets me going. I'm not doing this because I need to continue to run an airline. I'm doing this because I'm trying to impact a future generation within our company, within our community. And you have a lot of leaders that embrace you, John, and Operation Hope. And I look at your lineup of speakers, and I remember when I first came 6-7 years ago, and it was good then, but it's great now. And I think it's a testament to people who believe in making a difference and holding each other accountable, and then providing each other support. And the great thing about support is when you don't care who gets the credit, that's when magic occurs, right?
Ladies and gentlemen,
he's a great man.
Ed Bastian.
Love you.
Love you too.
One second. Before you go anywhere, Kelly Elliott, who's the woman I referenced who helped lead us with Operation Hope and Fidelity to create this program, is going to come up for a few minutes and provide some additional details about the success this program has, and you're going to want to listen to it. So Kelly, come out on stage.
Oh, hey, Kelly.
Thank you. Good morning. Good morning. Thank you.
Good morning,
Ed.
Kelly.
Good morning, everybody. I'm really excited about this opportunity to take a few minutes and just go into a little bit more detail about what John and Ed just talked about. You know, they really challenged us to take their vision and carry it forward. It was no easy task, admittedly. It's something that we did very quickly, and I'm really proud of the work that we've done. So they referenced two stats at the beginning of their talk. 1 in 4 Americans doesn't have an emergency savings account. 57% couldn't cover a $1,000 emergency. That's something that we knew we had to take action on at Delta because we are no different. Our people are no different. It's been a hard 3 to 4 years for us. You heard Ed talk about what the company's been through and what our people have been through and what they have done to really help the airline come through this. So we knew we needed to help them. We measured our well-being. We measured not only financial well-being, but we measured physical, emotional, and social well-being. And what we found was the greatest opportunity was in the financial well-being space. We also heard from people what were their 2 biggest concerns. Number 1 was lack of emergency savings. Number 2 was preparing for retirement. So with that information, that hard data, and the vision from Ed and John, we put this program together. And we're thrilled to share it with you because we don't want to just keep this as something that Delta does. We want it to be something that many employers, many organizations take to their people. Think about the difference that we can make. So how does it work? First things first, employees need to select a path. We have 3 different paths of education because we know not everybody needs the same thing. Some people might be focused on their credit score. Others might be focused on getting a mortgage, buying their first house. Others are planning for retirement or even going further, planning to estate planning so they can carry this wealth forward. So we created many different paths of education because we wanted to meet people where they were. It needed to make an impact. It can't just be a one-size-fits-all approach. So we took different layers. Next, they create their emergency savings account. So they go and start an account, a rainy day fund, as we call it, and they set a payroll deduction. What's most important about that is that payroll deduction is permanent and they stick with it. We tell them start small, start $5 if you have to, start small and increase it. Just get started. Finally, they start the education and the coaching program. This isn't just about giving people money, this is about setting them up for the future. So they start their coaching program, their education program. We didn't think it could just be education. Online education is helpful. Mind you, it's important. But that one-to-one coaching relationship was really, really important. I think Penny talked about it earlier. She talked about this human-centered approach. That one-on-one coaching, creating trust in that was absolutely critical. So we worked with Operation Hope, Hope Inside the Workplace. We have coaches across our entire system, meeting with our employees one-on-one, building trust. We also have Fidelity coaches who help us with that as well. We think that's building trust in the financial system broadly, but also confidence. I mean, these employees are building their own confidence so they can focus on their financial future. And then Ed and John, of course, mentioned when they go through this and they take the steps, we will make a $1,000 contribution for them for a total of $1,250. We are really changing the trend that exists for our 100,000 employees, and we really want to see others do that. So, a year end, how's it going? We almost have a year behind our belts, and we have some real hard data to support why this has been a great investment for us. Often for wellness programs, it's really hard to measure the ROI. So us putting the time in to measure the ROI has been really important because we want to keep making these types of investments. We have heard from our individuals that we are making a difference. We are truly changing lives. Loretta Day, I want to tell you a little bit about Loretta Day. She's actually here with us in the audience today. Woo, so happy to have you. She is an Atlanta-based flight attendant with Delta Airlines. She's a phenomenal cheerleader for our program. I talked to her and she told me about how she didn't really grow up learning to save. It just wasn't something she was taught. It wasn't something she talked about in her community. She was living in the moment. She was living for the day. She wasn't thinking about how do I set up my financial future. She ended up with 16 credit cards and a mountain of debt from spending money on very expensive items. And so she finally took action. She got involved in our program. She met with a coach. She got her finances in order. And I have a few quotes that were very impactful to me that I wanted to read. This program gave me all the tools I needed to prepare myself and my family for a strong financial future. It is the best thing the company has ever done for me. Wow. I wish other companies would do the same. Think of the impact that that would have. So thank you, Loretta. Thank you for being here. And thank you for... Thank you for being our biggest cheerleader. John talks about going on the airplane and talking with our flight attendants. Loretta would be your favorite. I mean, she is out there telling everybody about this. She's advocating for others, and she wanted to be here today to be a part of this as well. And we're hearing stories like this all the time. They're countless, but the hard numbers really speak to this. 21,000 people have completed their coaching and earned their $1,000. Thank you. 33,000 people have started an emergency savings account with, on average, 1,061 balance that they've contributed themselves. That is, I mean, that's changing the trends. And the majority are frontline hourly employees. Yes, our pilots participate. Yes, our management teams participate. But the majority are frontline hourly employees that are changing their day-to-day trajectory. Some of the other results that Ed and John mentioned where we look at an assessment at the beginning and the end. How are they feeling about their finances? The one that speaks to me the most is that we are seeing a 62% increase in the sense of financial control. That's right. That's really the biggest one. So we've released this white paper, which is what we have alluded to, and we have many, many results in there. We released it today, thanks to the vision of Ed and John and Joanne. Thank you. We will be leaving handouts on your tables at lunch so you can learn more about the program. We also have deltafinancialwellness.com. Please go look at it. Look at it for your organizations. Consider how you can get started. It doesn't have to be $1,000. There's many other ways of doing this, even if it's just a payroll deduction to an emergency savings plan to get people started. So I want to say thank you to Ed and John for pushing us to really take these steps on this unique and trailblazing program. I want to say thank you to my Delta team for all the hard work that you've put into this. And of course, thank you to the Operation Hope team who has really helped us lead with the coaching that they've provided. We think we've made a huge impact and we can't wait to see how we can take this forward. So thank you, John, for letting me have the floor. We appreciate it.
So I can fully accept, thank you so much. I can fully accept that you don't really understand. It's probably hard to comprehend the impact of what just happened. You know, when you go to a concert, it's a 2-hour event. It's full of excitement. You're riled up. You go to you go to a rap show, or you do something. It's episodic. This is okay. It's a report. It's a program. I need you to understand this. This is what healthcare was 50 years ago. 50 years ago, healthcare was not a normal in a corporation. 60 years ago, people looked at you like you were crazy. Today, you go to a company and they don't have healthcare, you think the company's crazy. Every pioneering thing begins somewhere. And what you just heard today was the biggest, most profitable, most successful airline in the world said that a program that came from a minority serving, underserved organization lit up their data in such a way as being compelling and hit their business plan as additive and prescriptive to the future, and other big companies should do it.
Thank you so much.
All right. Thank you, Kelly. That was incredible. And now that concludes the morning program. It is time for the Straight Talk breakouts, and they're across the hall. And what we ask you to move quickly over there. Get over there as quickly as possible. I know you may want to have discussions here, but they have to transform this area for lunch. And you never want to get in the way of anybody helping you get to lunch, right? To get to food. So enjoy the Straight Talk breakout sessions, and we'll see you back here for lunch. Scoot over there as quickly as possible. Enjoy.